set by the Route 66 Association of Kansas organization, anywhere from 25 to 100. Usual requirements for distinctive license plates for initial issuance and design costs would apply, with the fees being deposited into a fund and paid to the Route 66 Association of Kansas organization. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Anybody have any questions for the reviser? Seeing none, are there any amendments or any discussion? I have an amendment, if you'll pass that out. Give me one so I can explain what I'm doing. We're adding Highway 54. No. Yeah. So what this amendment does, and some of you will understand, some of the more seasoned members will understand why this is incredibly important. We're changing this act to take effect and be enforced from and after its publication in the Kansas Register rather than in the statute book. And with that, I'd appreciate a second somewhere. I've got a second by Representative Anderson. Is there any discussion on the motion? Representative Hoheisel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you explain the difference to me from the statute book to the Kansas Register?
It really actually just affects when the bill goes into effect.
Which one is sooner?
Can you help me with the difference in?
Mr. Chair, I withdraw my question.
I knew I needed to ask that before I did that amendment. Is there any other discussion on the amendment? Representative Goddard. You know, the longer we take on this, the longer it's going to take us to get out of here. Go ahead, Representative Goddard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I assume this will go to conference committee now?
Unfortunately, yeah. It'll be a very important cog in the wheel as we move forward.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative O'Hobson's next. Oh, Representative Collins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I suggest that we make it go into effect on June 6th.
Is that a substitute motion?
Yeah. Well, and it should be Senate Bill 66 instead of 98, but too late now for that. But
Okay.
no, I'm just trying to drag this meeting out as long as I can.
Is that a substitute motion? Are you making a substitute motion?
No.
Okay. I'm not sure what kind of problems that might.
I want the rest of the committee to like me still after, if they don't already.
All right, Representative Hoheisel.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair, for a second time. I'm looking at, are we assuming the Senate's not just going to concur with this change?
Well, you know, since it is so important to the Vice President of the Senate, you know, that is a real possibility.
That they'll just concur with this change? And
That's right, because of the complications we can run into on the conference committee.
Okay. Okay.
Representative.
Well, Mr. Chairman, then we should hold this since the Vice Chairman of the Senate, is that his correct title?
Vice President.
Vice President, we should hold this bill hostage and use it as a negotiating tool with the Senate for whatever other issues we have.
Yeah, nothing like being team players, is there? Any other discussion on the amendment? Representative Delperdane.
I'm just thinking 6 a.m. on June 6th.
666. All right, any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. Motion carries. We're back on the bill. Is there any other discussion on the bill? If not, is there a motion on the bill? You need a bill number.
SB 98. Mr. Chair, I move that we pass SB 98 out favorably. Is there as amended?
Yes.
Yeah.
Second is by Representative Helgerson. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. Motion carries. Next on the agenda, we will do SB 97, which was the bill that Owens was the only conferee. Would you give us an overview, please, Chris?
Sir, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senate Bill 97, as it was amended by the Senate Committee on Transportation, would require vehicle dealers to obtain a dealer inventory title for any used all-terrain vehicles, worksite utility vehicles, recreational off-highway vehicles, or motorcycles that are obtained by the vehicle dealer. This title would be applied for upon the sale or transfer of those vehicles, or I guess when they're obtained by the vehicle dealer. The fee is $10 for the title, and those fees would be deposited similarly to certificate of titles under KSA 8-145B. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Does anybody have any questions for the revisor? Seeing none, is there any discussion on the bill? Any amendments? If not, is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that we pass SB 97 out favorably.
Is there a second? Second is by Representative Bohai. Is there any further discussion? Not, Representative, would you like to close?
I close.
Okay, all those in favor of passing SB 97 favorably signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Motion carries. All right, our last item of business today will be SB 18. And with that, I'll go ahead and open SB 18. Are there any amendments? Representative Hoy has an amendment. You have it, Chris.
Thank you, Mr.
Okay.
Chair. Should I
Would you like to
explain while,
explain your amendment? Chris?
So I know there's a varying philosophical belief on the license plates and fundraising for organizations, that we have a number in the legislature that vote against this consistently. I am not one of those, but I do have a concern about fundraising and distributing that to a 501c4 organization that does have abilities for express advocacy. So this amendment would just designate the funding specifically to Hunter Nation Foundation, which is their 501c3, as opposed to Hunter Nation Incorporated, which is the 501c4. I'd be happy to stand for questions.
And you know that they do have such a foundation. Have you done some research?
Well, since they weren't here, I wasn't able to ask the question yesterday, but on their website, and it is very visible of the two different, that the foundation is there. And it's a 501c3 and Hunter Nation Incorporated is a 501c4.
Okay, is there a second on the amendment? Second is by Representative Essex. All right, discussion on the amendment. Representative Hoheisel.
Question for the revisor. Have we ever changed the designated fund on a license plate bill?
Mr. Chairman, as far as the recipient, is that
Yeah.
so there are numerous license plates, as we all know. Some of them that I can think of off the top of my head was like City of Wichita, which doesn't go to the City of Wichita, it goes to like
To
the
the
Wichita Parks and Rec.
Wichita Parks.
City of Topeka, it's kind of similar.
But when it's introduced, have we ever gone in and changed ourselves where that fund is?
Yeah, thank you, Joe. The Royals license plate last year, I think originally was maybe going to the Royals or some other organization. That was changed maybe even on the floor to have that go to a foundation.
Okay. And we have before given or used these funds, I guess, allow C4s, money to go into C4s in the past. Is that correct?
I would have to probably do a deeper dive into, it's not usually a question we ask since it's usually just the organization gives their name or their preferred recipient. I'd have to do a kind of a deeper dive into those license plates, see the classification of all those organizations.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Proctor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have appreciated in my time in this committee, same amount of time I've been in the legislature, that you and your predecessors have tried to keep this a nonpartisan committee. And it's kind of refreshing because my committee's sort of on the opposite end of the spectrum. So I really think that this is sort of a dangerous precedent to set, that we're going to adjudicate things along political lines here in this committee. I would prefer that we send the bill the way it was requested by the proponents. And if folks don't want to vote for it on the floor, they can vote for it on not vote for it on the floor. But I think we owe the body, the legislature, that opportunity. So I'm going to oppose this amendment.
Representative Bohai.
I just have a quick question regarding, it strikes also decreasing the guaranteed number of distinctive plates. So are we saying that now it has to have the guaranteed number of distinctive plates?
That happened in the Senate.
Thank you, sorry.
Not a problem. Representative Vaughn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess in response to the former comment, I think we all know if it gets out of committee and it is run on the floor, then it's going to pass on the floor, most likely. So I think this is an important place to have this discussion. I appreciate that this is how the bill was brought to us, but I do agree with the carrier of the amendment that I think it's also a slippery slope, which I guess, there are, according to the revisor, some funds that currently go to C4s, but to have these go to organizations that can do express advocacy without necessarily the person who has requested that license plate knowing the candidates or the causes to which that money is then going, it just feels like it's taxpayer funded express advocacy, and I have issues with that. So this still benefits the organization that is the bringer of the bill. I think this is a smart amendment, and I support the amendment.
Representative Proctor.
Last time I'll talk, I promise, on this one. But first of all, slippery slope is a logical fallacy. Just because we do one thing doesn't mean we have to do another thing. Second thing I'd say is it's not a foregone conclusion that this bill will become law. I remember the Gadsden Flag Kansas Rifle Association license plate that we ran a couple years ago. That was a really tough fight, and it ended up in a veto override. Could have went either way. And so, like I said initially, I would really like for the entire body to decide on this. So I will, again, oppose this amendment.
And I just remember, I think that Gadsden Flag, they made 2 or 3 years of attempts at that. And then while we do try to not be partisan on this committee, I can think of some road naming issues we've had in the past. We've had, there have been a few license plates that have got caught up in the political arguments in the past. So anybody else, any other conversation on the discussion on the amendment? Are you wanting, is that a yes or a no?
I just want to go back and look at the report we got from the Department of Revenue regarding all the different license plates to see if we have any other issues that this would mirror or be in direct contrast of. Do we have time?
Gadsden Flag is a perfect example of one that has been controversial in the past. We've had this happen. Kansans for Life, I don't know for sure. Is there a Planned Parenthood license? You've got the historical knowledge off the top of your head, Representative. Yeah, that would probably get a little political on the other side. Okay, any other discussion on the amendment? Representative Helgerson.
The question, did I hear that there are some 501c4s like this? That,
Thank you. Sure. I said I would need to dig into each recipient of those license plates to see their tax status and how they're classified. But we've never. I was saying I would have to dive into each license plate. They each have their own recipients, and I'm not. Again, it's not something we're I guess asked or monitoring. Thank you. When we're drafting, so I'm not sure if there is or not, but.
there are a few of us that are on the tax committee. And the vice chair and I have had the discussion about which group should have tax exemption, sales tax exemption. I can't, and I'm thinking there is a difference between 501c3s and 501c4s and whether or not we give exemptions. I'm looking for a parallel that if we're giving state support for an organization by eliminating sales tax and or eliminating certain restrictions, maybe it should be that it's not a 4, but a 3. So it's for it purely for the, I'll call it for lack, non-political, more straight education for the purpose. I tend to think it's a good idea, you know, and at least it's a point that should be brought up with the organization later, and then we can always change it on the floor if it comes to that discussion.
Representative Hoheisel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for recognizing me again. I would say the one parallel, though, is while the state acts as a, I don't want to say funneler, but the money that's raised here is not technically state dollars. These are dollars, basically an excess fee on top of the regular license plate fee. And the state is just a pass-through of these funds. So I'd say that would be the difference, because I don't consider that money tax dollars. That extra fee that they pay on top of the license plate fee, I don't consider those tax dollars. We're just a pass-through from collecting at the treasurer's office to the organization.
All right, Representative Vaughn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that is a good clarification, but I think the point still stands that ultimately we are facilitating the raising of this money, and that money then going to an organization that can do express advocacy for candidates or political organizations. And I think that's what makes it a bad idea, is that we're facilitating that transfer of funds through the creation of this license plate, even if it's not technically taxpayer money. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other discussion? This is one of those ones, has everybody seen some of those summaries that they do of committee meetings? And they say that the conflict is low, medium, or high. Ours have been low almost all session, and we might get a medium on this one. All right, if there's no further discussion, all those in favor of, oh, that's right. Would you like to close, Representative Hoy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Maybe I can clear a couple of things up. I was not on the Transportation Committee when the Gadsden flag for the Kansas State Rifle Association went through. I went back and looked at the legislation, and it just does say Kansas State Rifle Association. It doesn't designate a fund, so I'm honestly not sure which one it goes to, but I did oppose that bill. So my intent is to get me to a yes to this, to make it non-political. Hunter Nation Incorporated, it'll be able to have the same design, same as it would look, it just goes to a different fund. 501c3s can still do some advocacy work and outreach in the political sphere, but they can't give funds directly to candidates and do that express advocacy in that way. And I do have just a personal and philosophical belief that we should not, even though the state resources for these license plate is low, it does take staff time and effort to do this. I think that it's much cleaner and I guess more transparent if we direct these funds to 501c3s. So with that, I close and move the amendment. Thank you.
All right. Everybody's heard the amendment. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The chair is in doubt. Everybody in favor raise their hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. All those opposed. Oh, don't do this to me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Did I get it right? Motion carries 8-7. We're back on the bill. Is there a motion on the bill? Or is there any other discussion on the bill? I'm sorry. Not? Is there a motion?
Yes. Sorry, that was fast.
After you vote for that amendment, you should be making the motion.
I move that we pass SB 18 out favorably as amended.
Is there a second? Second is by Representative Helgerson. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Motion carries. All right. Committee, that ends our work today. And I do want to take just a moment. There isn't anything else on our agenda. I mean, or there's nothing in the pipeline that I plan to work going forward. So do keep your eyes open. Did you ever, we are going to have a meeting at the rail at some time to approve minutes. So I know some of them have been sent out. We're going to be sending some more out. We may do that at the rail if we can, just to save everybody's time and effort. But I do want to take a moment here to thank Meg and Cole and Jill and Chris for all of their work this session. I want to thank my vice chair and ranking minority member for your help this year. Some of us have had some illness, and honestly, I do want to thank all of you for your work on the committee. You know, we're a very fortunate committee. We have a lot of senior members here, chairman in here, and your input makes us have better process. You know, the chair of the Senate committee is a good friend of mine, and Senator Peterson has been around a long time, and sometimes I'll get a little bit frustrated when I don't get my way, and he always tells me to trust the process, and all of you guys make sure that we have great process in this committee, so thank you for your work. And with that, we are adjourned.